Kellye, thank you so much for joining us. I think this is really cool that we're able to do this and have a month of just people who kind of are professionals in different areas and can really help us have a little insight as parents. I think that's going to go a really long way. So we'll just jump into this. My first question, sorry, that's my neighbor's dog.
Okay, you'll hear birds soon from
Yeah.
my backyard.
Yes. So the first question is, tell us a bit about your background working in child development field.
Sure. Well, I started out thinking I was going to be a writer. So my bachelor's degree is actually in creative writing, but God had other plans for me. I had work study in college, and I chose to work at the Children's Center. And once I started working with children, I realized how magical they were. And, I'll never forget that first day that I spent in the Children's Center and thinking of and reflecting on who I was then and how transformed I am now. And so it started there. Shortly after graduating, I decided to pursue my teaching credential and just had a series of transformative student teaching moments. I also, we had our first son right in the middle of it. So that's something that has really been a consistent theme in my career and in my family, is the interconnectedness of everything, and how I've always been able to kind of directly apply what I'm learning to what's happening at home. And then with my career, I've taught primarily in Christian schools and preschools, and being able to share my faith and being able to just keep my eyes on God and what He wants, and just marveling in what He has made has been extremely fulfilling. And I'm humbled to be here. Really, it's you have those moments in your life where you're like, really, you want me to do this? Like, gosh, seeing what we can do when we have God with us. And now I'm a professor at Point Loma Nazarene, and it's just a testament to when we really just let God take the lead, and He puts us where we need to be. And I've had administrative positions in preschools. I've taught in anywhere from infants all the way up to 4th and 5th grade, and now adults. And I'll say, just being a mom and being a teacher and just spending that time like in the classroom and just engaging with children, that's where I've learned the most. So I just want to encourage all of you, if you're doubting yourselves right now, just know that you have it in you. Because that experience, just being someone's mom or someone's dad, or just taking care of little people, and is giving you so much experience you don't even realize. You're like, we call it at Point Loma, you have a bunch of ninja skills taking care of little people, so so that I'm a school person. I love learning. I never want to stop, so that's helped me also. But now it's been by the grace of God, and my children have taught me so much. And I think that becoming a parent, it really helps you understand the sacrifice and how you just feel like, man, giving up my son, you don't get that until you become a parent. So there's just so many experiences that you all already have that, yeah.
Absolutely.
So sorry, that was a little bit rambling, but
no, that's perfect. No, that's seriously, that was an amazing answer. And I absolutely agree with the last part you said about the parent. Kelsey and I just having Collins, she's 3 months now, and it's just like, it's a totally different world. And that whole idea of sacrifice, you really don't understand it until you have kids. But yeah, I mean, we're really excited. I know the first time I met you, Kellye, was just at our training we did for some of our volunteer staff not too long ago. And I mean, seriously, just the wisdom that you brought to that day was incredible. I mean, I've been doing church stuff for a really long time now. And I think the stuff that you brought to the table, people who have been in the church world or even in the kids world or whatever it is for the last however long, that stuff is really important. So yeah, I really appreciate again for you just hopping on here tonight and just giving us the time to do this.
Yeah, that's how God works. He brings us all together. You know, we're needed. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And I guess the next question, we'll just jump right into it because
sure.
we are in the middle of this pandemic. It's like 47 days at this point.
Yes.
I think we're that far in. I'm not really
I know.
sure.
I'm impressed that you're counting. I feel like we need to have like ticks on the living room wall or something.
Seriously, yeah, it feels like that. It feels like that sometimes. But the next question, I guess, would be, in this time, what should families be focusing on to fight against what some are saying or calling the quarantine quarrels?
Okay. Yeah. So before I start, I just want you all to know that I'm right there with you. So a little background on me. I have a fifth grader. He just turned 11. I have a
Mm-hmm.
second grader. He just turned 8. We've had 2 birthdays in quarantine. And I have a 6-year-old who's in first grade, my daughter. So I'm right there with you. And I look more put together right now than I have probably in the past month. So, you know, it's a victory that I look presentable enough to be on an Instagram. So I'm with you. The quarantine quarrels today, just to put it into perspective, my second grader had a complete meltdown, and then we just had to stop and laugh. I mean, he was in little onesie pajamas, like way overgrown for them, crying, saying, "You know, I don't like work. I never want to do work again, not even in college." And like, these are real tears. And
Absolutely.
I'm just embracing it. So
Absolutely.
we have to take it day by day. I think that what I really wanted to focus on tonight is something that you all already have with you. Like God brings this to you and you have it, and that's the social emotional part and the social emotional development of your children. I come on here and you all say I'm the expert, I'm the child development professor, but you all are the expert on your children. Even your 3-month-old daughter, Brian, you all are the expert on her. She probably is making all of these different noises and coos, and you probably know what those mean. But take her to some strangers and they're like, "Oh, that's a cute noise. Like, I don't know what that means." But you all
Yes.
are figuring that out. So you are the experts, and don't doubt yourself. So tonight, if I give advice and it just doesn't sound like that would work for you, it probably won't. And don't doubt yourself. So it's not a one size fits all recipe. There are so many different dynamics going on in different families, and you know your children and you know what will work. So I'm going to give some advice. I'm going to give some tips. And even if you try them and they don't work, you know, you can either say that was an epic fail and we're not going to do that again, or you can say we'll try again because, you know, maybe the context wasn't right. So I just want you to know going forward that think of this as an awesome time to get practice at these things. In my opinion, children, especially school age, preschool age children, don't get enough practice at these things. And we don't as parents either. We're so go, go, go all the time. So we don't often have the opportunity to practice conflict resolution and really get like down deep and understand feelings. So it's an opportunity to get to know your children and to just, you know, dive in, you know, like Brene Brown says, you know, get vulnerable, like, you know, fall face first into the dirt, into the arena. And feel those feelings with your children. So it's okay. It's okay for them to see you upset. It's okay for them to see you stressed out. As long as you're providing words and explanations to what's happening, because you're a human too. And it is comforting to them to have you provide words and labels to those feelings that they're definitely feeling. And it also helps you. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if we can do like hands raised on here, but I'm sure you all feel the parenting guilt. I feel it all the time. I mean, I don't know how, I mean, everyone is managing this thing, but I'm still teaching college now, who I feel like they're my babies too. I mean, they're like 19, 20, and they're trying to figure this all out. And then I have my babies at home, and I just feel like I'm pulled in a million directions. And so you're never going to be meeting all of their needs like you want. So giving yourself a break. So I also, something that I've done in my house that works really well is our living room is like the family space, and it's the safe space where you know, it needs to be peaceful for everyone. But you all have different like housing situations and different room configurations, but for us, their rooms are their place where they can go and scream into a pillow and shout and, you know, do whatever they want. But when they enter our living room, they need to start to be respectful of everyone else. And that hasn't been something that's been a big deal, other than now, like during quarantine time, because we're all together. Like the house has become this completely, it has to be that. And so we've had to work a lot harder on that, on making it a place where we're working on respect and controlling our anger and everything, and adults too. I mean, we're not so different. That's the part that's so remarkable about human and child development. I mean, you start to realize, oh man, like I think I want to throw a tantrum right now. Like that seems acceptable. So
that's interesting, talking about the creating these spaces. I think for us, Kelsey and I, have a big place that we've created, because we live in a 875 square foot house in La Mesa. And so the space that we've kind of created for ourselves is our coffee table. Because our daughter sleeps all these kind of crazy hours, we've said like the coffee table is the one place that like we sit down and we don't complain. We don't bring any of that energy to that. We play cards at like 2 a.m. because our daughter is up sometimes, you know, like whatever it is, but that's been our space. So that's really cool to definitely create that space. I think that's really important in a house.
I have a few other things that just go along with the conflict resolution, and, you know, don't be afraid to have a sense of humor. This is not normal, typical times, and normal rules don't apply. It's okay to be right in the middle of an argument and then just realize how ridiculous it is and just start laughing together and say, oh man, that got out of control. Like, and physical touch is very important. There's a lot of research that proves that, you know, just being physically close to one another in a time like this, especially for children of all ages. I mean, I'm really having to force it with the 11-year-old right now, but with him, for those of you who have older children, you can start to get into the science of it all and talk about, you know, dopamine and the 10-second hug. You know, research has proven that if you hold a hug for 10 seconds, you know, that's really when it's the most effective and it releases all of those good feelings. So now I like grab him and randomly, and we do the 10-second hug, and I'm like, you feel better now? You know, like, so we get sciencey with him. So, you know, and I mean, many of you are probably aware of like the benefits of just, you know, kangaroo care for newborns and infants, and just baby wearing and all of that. That is more important than ever right now. And you probably are finding, especially in that like 7 and under crowd, you might be noticing that you have a little Klingon. I don't know if you can raise hands, but that is their way of coping. They just want to be next to a safe person. And so you might find that your once independent 5 or 6-year-old is by your side. You know, you walk away for a minute and you're seeing like them regress a bit, and that's all normal. So yeah.
Absolutely. That is awesome, man. I wish this is something, just so everybody knows, this video will be saved. So if you need to go back, and because I'm going to have to go back and write some of this stuff down, this is good stuff. The next question I guess we want to jump into is how can we talk to our kids about the world being a different place because of COVID, kind of in a healthy way?
Well, you know, I think it's really healthy to give just enough information to children. It's important to not overshare. And this is where I'll appeal to you as being the experts of your own children. There are many times when we feel like our children can't handle information. And, you know, one of the best examples of this is when I was in charge of leading chapel for City Tree Christian Preschool, which I was the director of. And I saw the Easter chapel curriculum, and I was like, oh man, like this is heavy. Like these are 2, 3, and 4-year-olds. And I was like, you know what? Like I prayed about it, and I'm like, we're just going to go with it. Like, this is life. This is what happened. This is a true story. Like, let's just go. And I was so amazed at just how matter of fact, like they had their answer. They knew what happened to Jesus, and they knew all the details. They were asking questions like, what is that on his wrists and his hands? Like, was he really hanging up there? And we're like, yeah, I mean, that he was hung up there and he was bleeding and he was hurt. And they're like, oh man, like they can relate to things like that, believe it or not. You know, they get hurt on the playground, and those feelings, you know, we experience them and they experience them as well. And as parents, you know, we just are, we're wired to protect our children, and we think we don't want them to see any of that. And I wholeheartedly agree with not like having the news on 24/7, because, you know, our children need to hear this information from us and from the people that they trust, and not the news. But it doesn't mean we have to shield them from it entirely. Children of pretty much 2 and up are capable of understanding that there is like a germ out there that is making people really sick. And so we need to go inside and stay safe and stay away from people for a while. And you can gauge your child. So give them a little bit, you know, and then most of the time, what I always found with my children, you know, they ask away, and then they kind of look at you and you say something and they're like, oh, okay. And they go back to playing, and you're like exhaling, like, oh, okay. Like that was not what I expected. I mean, this really happens with the birds and the bees talk when they get older. You're like, oh, you're like planning the script out and what you're going to say. And then all you give is like a tiny little piece of it, and they're all right with it, and they go back to doing what they're doing. So giving limited amounts of truth and just being there and being ready for it. It happens at weird times. They'll talk about it at bedtime, in the bath, like when you're brushing their hair, when they wake up in the morning, like just times when you wouldn't expect it, when you're not prompting it, when you're not saying, how are you feeling about this? That's not when it'll come up. It'll come up when they're watching an episode of like Shimmer and Shine or something, and they just think about it. Some very like profound statement, like, is COVID-19 going to get me? And you're just sitting there like, oh gosh, and say something like, probably not. Like, I don't think so. But,
yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a great answer. I think being honest, but also, like you said, protecting them to what they're really, because I remember talking to Kelsey about that, and just, you know, we have some younger family members and stuff like that where we're like, I wonder like how this is playing out in their minds and things like that. And that's totally true. I think being honest, but also being protective at the same time is a good key.
And being observant of them and like picking up on their cues, because I always had the tendency to overshare. But if you really pay attention to them and you like pause after saying something, you'll realize, oh, that was enough for them. They don't need the full-blown explanation right now. They just need to know that they're safe.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's an amazing answer. Let's see, another question. Also, if you have any questions who are watching, please throw them in the comments. We'll filter through them and we'll answer them at the end. So throw them in there. That'd be awesome. The next one is, let's see. This one is, it says, is my child missing out developmentally being home and not experiencing preschool, trips to the zoo, seeing their friends, things like that?
Okay, so yeah, I was prepared for this one because I was struggling with that. I was really, I mean, my kids are right in the middle of middle childhood, and you know, I'm a credentialed teacher, and I was even feeling like for the first week or two of schooling them, you know, I'm more equipped than most, and I still felt like I was failing miserably. You know, I'm mom. You know, they're not going to, I don't have like, I'm not like my son's like 20-year veteran, like male 5th grade teacher who like has them, like has their attention and has them in line and like really knows how to reach them. But then, you know, I always go back, you know, I go back to God, I pray. That's another one. Just if it's okay to not know, and tell your children, I don't know. Like, I don't know when this COVID is going, I don't know when this is going to be over. Let's pray about it, because someone does. And let's talk to him about it, and he can help us. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted with that one. What were we talking about?
It was the question of like missing out developmentally, being home, things like that.
Thank you.
That's okay.
That classes as well, all the time. I have like my students trained to get me back on track. Okay, so the research overwhelmingly shows that you don't need to be your child's teacher. You are better. So when I don't know any of you who remember you taking your child to preschool for the first time, you might be there. That might be very fresh in your memory. How even if their teachers were saying they were happy at school, they would throw a fit about leaving you because you are their preferred person. And, God chose you to be their parents. And so the developmental benefits of them being at home with you far outweigh what they're missing in the classroom. And this is where I really like to bring up cultural capital, which it was one of my favorite in undergraduate or graduate study. It was something I really latched onto, and we all bring so much to the table. Something that I've really enjoyed is sharing my love of American history with my 11-year-old. It's just a bond we share. He's done woodworking projects with my dad. Like, you all have something that you can share with your child that is so valuable that they might not have had access to until now. So think about those things and just, find comfort in the fact that children thrive so much when they are in the presence of their loved ones and their parents, and they'll be okay. Like, they'll grow exponentially in other ways that will keep them going and keep them afloat. And also know every child almost in America is going through this. So you don't have to worry about your child going back to first grade or going to first grade next year and not knowing all their sight words because all of the 25 other children were doing the same exact thing that your child was doing. So the schools are figuring out a plan to deal with that. Trust me, they know that all of these children coming back are not going to be where they're supposed to be. So I think that you should try really hard to not stress out about that. It's hard, but once you realize how much your child will benefit just from sharing moments with you and learning about the things that make you and your family, like, it's just wonderful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, man, that's really encouraging for me, because I know in the last 2 weeks, I've probably talked to a couple hundred families, just calling some of our families at Journey and just checking in, making sure. And I would say that is somewhat near the top a lot of them, that they're just worried, like, man, what is next year going to bring? And so I think that's really encouraging to know, like, we're all in this together. We really are. I mean, this is something that whether you're in first grade or whether you're in high school, whatever it is, like, we're all in this together, and next year is going to come, and we're all going to get it figured out together. So that's really encouraging.
Another really quick encouraging fact is that children often, this usually happens around kindergarten and first grade, usually children experience the most growth directly after a break. So you'll see tremendous progress in reading and math and everything, like, right after Christmas break. And, experts are trying to figure that out, but a lot of theorists theorize that it's because the brain has been given the opportunity to just kind of expand in other areas, like during the break, explore outdoors, be creative, do things that they don't normally do. And that flexibility, that, like, malleability of the brain allows for them to experience those concepts and, like, process all of that and digest it. So that's what your children are all experiencing right now. Children are natural learners. They will do it regardless. Like, that's just what they do. That's their job. So they're always doing it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Hey, if you are just joining us for some reason, you can drop any questions you have. What we're doing is we're interviewing Professor Kellye Carroll. She's child development professor at Point Loma. And so we're just kind of asking all these questions. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid, drop them in there. Christina's online kind of helping us filter through some stuff. Let's see. Another question we kind of came up with. Let's see. you may have answered this, but we'll see. It says, how do children shape their own development? So this is more, child development kind of question.
Yeah, I love this stuff.
Yeah.
So, basically, I mean, there are a lot of different theories about this. So keep in mind, like, this is what I believe in. There are a lot of different beliefs about, like, how children develop and grow. But one of the leading theories is that children really influence and guide their own development. And there are a lot of different factors that go into that. So, one large factor is their interests, what they're interested in. I know that just having multiple children in my family is a testament to that. I mean, I had one child who couldn't care less about anything academic, really, and the only way to really tap into that was to learn things kinesthetically or through jumping and running and things like that. And then I have one child who taught himself to read at like 3, and we didn't have anything to do with that, you know. So children naturally will gravitate towards what they're interested in. And it's really helpful to meet them there and to take time to figure out what they're interested in. And I mean, that is the best step you can take. And that's less work for you if you figure out like how to meet them where they're at. Another way children influence their own development is actually through their temperament, and how there's this bi-directional aspect of development where as soon as personality and temperament are developed, and this happens in infancy, it influences how people respond to us. And these are patterns that continue over and over again. So this is why in a family, like if you were a sibling and you might say, you know, mom and dad were great. Like they were fair. They only gave us punishments that we deserved. And then your older brother could be like, man, were you in my family? Like this was not fair. Like I was always getting in trouble. Like mom and dad were strict, and it's just a matter of like that frequent like pattern of how we respond to people, how we're received, and that really shapes who we are and our responses to people. And whether that's reinforced positively or negatively, and just, you know, sometimes these things are very planned and like they happen intentionally, and other times it's just, you know, something traumatic happens at just this certain stage of development, and it kind of sets us back a little bit depending on our temperament and things like that. So those are like the 2 big ways that children shape their own development, is through their interests and ability and natural abilities, God-given abilities, and then also through their temperament and just the kind of the patterns of how they interact with people and how they're received. Starts pretty much almost at birth with, you know, reciprocated smiles and coos and things like that.
Yep, our daughter is going through that phase right now. It's a lot of fun. She smiles all the time. It's really, man, it melts my heart when she does that. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, we've got just a few minutes left, and I know that you kind of shared some online sources, like books and things like that. So any books or anything out there that you want to recommend to parents to hop on after we're done with this video?
Sure. I don't have all my books with me right now. Is there a way to like share that to everyone that I sent to you? We don't have to do it right now, but I have recommendations of books that you can read with your children, but then also books for you. I think the book that has really helped me the most, and the one that I can't keep with me, is Sacred Parenting by Gary Thomas. And that's a book for you. And that's really a book that it just has always just really helped center me and helped me realize that I'm not alone in this parenting journey. I mean, I have my husband, but we also have God, who knows our children even better than we do. And he carries that, and he's looking after them. And so when we just feel like we've totally blown it and we don't know what we're doing, and I mean, that happens to me all the time. I might be a child development expert, but I'm a first-time parent to an 11-year-old boy. And it's a completely different playing field when it's your own. I can say all this wonderful advice, but then, you know, when he's sitting there in the moment in this like funny transition between childhood and adolescence, I'm just like, oh gosh, God, please help. you can do it. You're enough. And sacred parenting is all about that. And it's just, it always makes me feel better. It's the book that I give out the most when I've been an administrator at preschools and parents come in struggling. I just give it to them and I say, just read this, it'll help you. Just know you're not alone. One that I do have with me is, let's see how this works, is this book, which that's not backwards, is it?
Yeah, but that's okay. It says,
it's how to talk so kids will listen and how to listen so kids will talk. And they also have a version for younger children. I use these in my classes all the time because what I've found in a lot of those like help books is there isn't as much practical, like do this now, say this now advice. And these are awesome. They have even little comics and scenarios. And one that I love in the early childhood one is ways to share in your child's emotions. So for example, your child drops an ice cream cone, and instead of saying, it's just an ice cream cone, get over it. Saying something like, oh man, that stinks. Your ice cream cone fell. You must feel really upset about that. And those things that sound really awkward and unnatural at first, but once you like practice them and once you see like the effect that they have on your child and they have that like, oh my gosh, like my mom or my dad, they know how I feel. So these books are full of that. And they also go into sibling dynamics and just kind of not comparing siblings, and which is probably so important right now when everybody's at home together. We're just, I'm sure that you're all learning each other inside and out again. So and then there's a lot of books. There's a book, Indescribable, that I read with my children every night. And it's devotions about God and science, and it really it just provides some thought-provoking questions, good conversation starters, and it's just all about this wonderful world that God has created and how science and God do coexist, and it just really helps children who might be starting to wonder those questions, and they might be starting to hear different things from different people, and it's just in a really simple way. It provides the language for you so you can kind of, it's like that backup for you.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we'll be able to post those later. Because I have that whole list of books, good. And I definitely will be ordering some and keeping them in my office at Journey. But yeah, I mean, if we don't have any questions or anything like that coming in, that is okay. Did you have anything else you wanted to share kind of before we hopped off?
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that I was addressing like all of the different ages and stages that are represented here. It's a pretty wide range. So there's the link to the Point Loma Viewpoint article that really covers some like really good strategies for early childhood and newborns and infants there. So hopefully we can figure out a way to share that with you all. Yeah. Some advice for those older children, those 5th and 6th graders, that's pretty much like the upper end, right? Is to just be cognizant that your child had a lot of independence and a lot of privacy before this happened. I mean, my son as a 5th grader was one of the big guys on campus, and now that's kind of all been taken away from them when they're at home. So trying to think of ways that you can still give them that independence. Like I let my son like ride his bike up and down the street. We're following all the social distancing rules, but
do I need my own Instagram account? All right, we are live.
they only
know that he's
the Point Loma Viewpoint article that really covers some like really good strategies for early childhood and newborns and infants there. So hopefully we can figure out a way to share that with you all. Yeah. Some advice for those older children, those 5th and 6th graders, that's pretty much like the upper end, right? Is to just be cognizant that your child had a lot of independence and a lot of privacy before this happened. I mean, my son as a 5th grader was one of the big guys on campus, this, you know, and now that's kind of all been taken away from them when they're at home. So trying to think of ways that you can still give them that independence. Like I let my son like ride his bike up and down the street. You know, we're following all the social distancing rules, but they need to feel that. They need to have the opportunity to have that same independence and that freedom in order to keep that self-esteem healthy and to keep them knowing that they're capable and competent. Like these are all the things that those older children are working through. So that's just something I wanted to make sure to say, that it's easy to forget things like that. Like in the home, you're like, we have our rules. Like I'm allowed to go into your room whenever I want. Like that's how it is at home, right? But just remembering that, man, these kids, I mean, even first graders walk to the bathroom by themselves in most schools, or maybe with a buddy. So just thinking about that and being like, oh yeah, my child is a lot more capable than I realize most of the time. So maybe I should give them like a chance to do something on their own, or just kind of feel that accomplishment, that pride.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, man, this has been such a gift and joy. Seriously, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I know you said like, wow, it's like you feel kind of weird that we called on you, but seriously, we see you. In my mind, I'm like, that is definitely the person I'm calling when it comes to child development stuff. So I really appreciate you hopping on here. And like I said, I mean, we'll have this video available, so I know I'm going to go back and watch it and take notes and everything like that. And again, to just everybody else still watching, who's going to be watching this, every Monday we're going to put a video out with different professionals from different kind of platforms, so therapists, life coach, and stuff like that. We know that this is a really hard time, and so yeah, as much advice as we can kind of get, I think that's super helpful. So again, Kellye, thank you so much for just hanging out with us tonight, and we'll probably talk to you soon.
Yeah, anytime. And please, I want you all to have my contact information. You never know when it's a challenging question or just need someone to bounce something off of. I'd love to be that person for you.
Very cool. Yeah, we can definitely put that in the notes when we make it into a video and everything like that. I'll get that email and stuff from you. So, all right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. This was a blast. This was new. I had never done this before.
New for me too.
So I think we did really well. Yeah. So I guess we can give ourselves a round of applause a little bit. Yes. And yeah, seriously, you guys, I think also another big note, and Kellye touched on it, parents, you're absolutely not alone in this. Not only do you have Journey supporting you guys and kind of what you need. I'll put my email in there as the kids director and stuff like that. But also, ultimately, you have a God that's for you. I think that understanding that is a huge, huge idea. The fact that there is a God who is willing to fight for you and your family through thick and thin, and know that even when it seems like times are impossible, especially right now, that you can turn to God and know that He's always going to be there for you. So awesome. All right. Well, I think we're going to sign off. And again, Kellye, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next Monday. All right.
All right. I'm praying for all of you. You've got it.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
End. Oh, we're still on.